click that next button. Don't even think about clicking on a different podcast, because that is effing weird is here to bring you a wealth of knowledge today.
Welcome back to That Is Effin' Weird. I'm Stevenson Longbottom. I'm here by myself, but I have a guest here. He goes by the name of Conda. He has his own podcast that has been going on for 2 years now, Cavemen News, which can be found on Twitch. And they cover some local weird stories. I think he's perfect for the show. The show's name's That's Effin' Weird. He covers weird stuff that actually happens, or he goes through some news articles from New Mexico and talks about them. Conda, I think you're perfect for the show. Just welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped for this.
Oh, good. We're glad that you're here. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get into talking about some of these cryptids?
I'm a big fan of podcasts and podcasting and broadcasting. When we started doing our show that's mostly a live stream on Twitch, I pitched it to my friend that I do the show with, Pepito. Shout out Pepito. I think streaming is the public access TV of our generation. It's that new frontier, taking the media DIY, making it yourself.
See, you bring up a good point. We'll get into the cryptids in a second, but I don't think I've ever heard that. Like, Twitch and everything is the local broadcast. I just find it so hard though, like with Twitch and everything, that you can find what you're looking for. I've never used Twitch, so I find it like there's almost like an overabundance.
Absolutely.
So how do you, I guess for you, how do you stick out from the crowd, or how do you find your audience, or do they find you?
They mostly find us. We had the vision to do this show. We think our town of Carlsbad, New Mexico has a lot of fun and interesting history, and we have a lot of fun talking about it. And we don't know how to reach people and explain to them that you don't have to be from Carlsbad to enjoy the weird stories we find. Most of the people that view our show with us every week are from Carlsbad. They're people we grew up with. So
that's really cool.
It's a very localized thing.
Well, hopefully some of our audience members here will tune in for your show, watch some of that stuff, find what you have interesting. And I know I'll probably be taking a look at it as well. Before the show, actually, I'd asked you about cryptids, just like a general kind of knowledge base, and you actually said that there's something within your town that is kind of like a cryptid?
Yeah, my co-host Pepito suggested that we do for October a month full of spooky topics and things like that. So that became the challenge of finding 5 weeks worth of spooky stories. And I found one. We had gone over an event called the Pecan Festival. And while I was reading newspaper articles, I saw a brief mention where it said, I wonder if the Headless Horseman will show up, from the 1960s. And I thought, what? Why would the Headless Horseman show up? What's going on there?
Yeah.
So we decided to do an episode about it. And once we're doing the research, I found out that I misread it, and what they were saying was the horseless headman. And there's a legend about a creature with a horse's body and a human's head.
No way.
That would run up and down the riverbanks late at night on the Pecos River. And that was, I think most of it was very tongue-in-cheek and people laughing, but it was widely reported in the local newspaper.
Well, that would actually be a pretty crazy sight. With your research, was it really just a joke, or did you interview any of the locals to see what this story was actually all about?
I think it was a joke, but there were a ton of articles written about it. And then there were people writing in saying they saw the creature, and some were saying it was a horse's body with a man's head. Some say it was a woman. Somebody said that it was a horse's body with a snake's head. There was just many accounts, many different variations on the theme of the horseless headman.
Interesting. That would be really cool if your town kind of ran with that and made it their own.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of, and it's actually one of the cryptids, so if you want to get right into it with this list, we can talk about this first one, but it kind of reminds me of the Mothman.
Oh, yeah.
Where Point Pleasant, West Virginia was, stalked by this mysterious thing. That would be so cool if your town just took this story and ran with it and made their own kind of festival with it.
We should. I'm hoping to raise awareness by digging up these old stories and saying, hey, we should return to this. We should really embrace this.
100%. I think if you were to put like town flyers and everything like that and make like some really cool art with it and just like,
absolutely,
start trying to blow it up. If you don't mind me asking, as far as your town, how big is your town? Is it like a few thousand? Is it like 250,000?
Let's see. Carlsbad, New Mexico. It looks like the population is 31,000.
Okay. I definitely think you could hold a festival. I think you could definitely get people on board with that.
Right.
With that being said, with the whole Mothman, how familiar are you with the Mothman story?
I just tangentially, I grew up being a child who was into effing weird stories, and so I loved reading about cryptids, and Mothman was not one I focused on, but I remember seeing some stuff, and I remember the trailer for the movie Mothman Prophecies.
Yes.
I haven't dug deep into this character.
Actually, it was the last week's episode that we actually talked a little bit about the Mothman, just briefly. We did do an episode on it like 2 or 3 years ago when the podcast first started. It is one of our early episodes, and I know we had covered pretty extensively. But if any of our audience members wants to know more about it, we do have an episode strictly on that one. But there's this mysterious creature that plagues this town, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I want to say for like a week or like a month. It's not very long that this creature and just people are seeing it everywhere, and it's stalking people at night, and people do report it on one of the bridges in town, crawling around or like on the scaffolding or something like that. And then the bridge actually does collapse shortly shortly thereafter. And I want to say a couple of people died from it, but there was reports of this creature on it. So it's one of those mysterious things where like it was there for a while and then it just disappeared and it hasn't been seen since. The last time I did this research, I want to say we did try to cover, has there been any recent sightings of the creature?
Yeah.
And as of 2 or 3 years ago, I don't think there was any sightings recently. But again, that's just the sightings, or the kind of like, long story short, that's what the Mothman is about.
Okay.
And I guess with that being said, what are your thoughts on the creature? Do you think it's something that's real? Do you think that mistaken identity? What do you think?
It could be. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about the Mothman. I am a big fan of the newspaper's archive, and I was just looking at the newspaper's archive from West Virginia and mentions of the Mothman, and it looks like it hasn't been mentioned in years. I don't know. What do you think?
For me, I covered this on last week's episode because there was 2 lesser known cryptids that I had talked about, and kind of the hitting points that I stuck with is mistaken identity. There is a bird called the barred owl, not the barn owl, but the barred owl. And I think it comes in, the owl comes in different variations of colors. And long story short, I think people were seeing this owl.
Okay.
Because when you take pictures, or when the light kind of shined in its eyes, the pupils will turn like a red color. And that's one of the distinct features of the Mothman, or what people remember seeing, is like these bright red eyes. So this owl does resemble that fairly well. And I think if you were to type in, even into Google, like barred owl Mothman, I guarantee this is the bird that people were seeing. However, the only thing that kind of steers me away from that is the bridge that went down. I think people were saying like they saw a man, like a man creature type thing. And I just don't know if the barred owl is as big as what people were seeing. And there was an episode on Unsolved Mysteries I remember watching that a lady had said this Mothman creature walked up to her windows and was like peering in. And I just don't see owls doing that, because I feel like owls are kind of like solitary creatures. They just kind of hang out by themselves. They don't want to be like interacting with people too much. So it's hard to say. Anyone who's listened to the show for a while knows that I love aliens and knows that I like these tales and everything. I just don't know if I could throw all my chips in and 100% say that the Mothman is true. And I guess that's why it's classified as a cryptid. That's my 2 cents on it.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think I'm on the right path?
I mean, it's hard to say because to pretend that you know everything that's out there and every possibility, that's a big claim. There could be a lot of stuff that we don't know about out there.
Yeah, and that's something also too that like these creatures that people are seeing, I had never heard of the names before, but long story short, it was a giant spider and like a giant snake serpent thing, but they were classified as cryptids. Again, it's just one of those things where both of them were found in the Congo, and
Okay.
I feel like in the Congo, it's so unexplored, and just the environment, the ecosystem, if a spider had just a buffet of lunch and
Right.
didn't have any predators, who's to say that it couldn't get to a huge size?
Absolutely.
It could still be real, and it technically doesn't qualify as a cryptid. When we're talking about stuff from the Congo, it could be more of a reality than something like the Mothman. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes more sense. There's more room for it to be based on reality.
Yes.
Out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I cover too on the show kind of extensively is I don't want to discredit what people think that they saw.
Right.
Just because, like I wasn't there and you think you saw what you saw or you know what you saw. So who am I to say that you didn't? And one of the things specifically with those two lesser known cryptids was that one of them, I think it was the giant spider, an explorer, him and his wife both saw this spider that was like the size of like a small jungle cat.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it was like, all right, well, it's very possible that they did see that. And I don't know. It's very interesting when we're talking about stuff like that.
It's hard to say. The world is mysterious, and there are a ton of things that we don't know about, haven't discovered yet. There's new things all the time.
Yeah, and that's just you bring up a great point too, is that people will stumble across a new species of something, and it's like, well, we thought that was extinct thousands and thousands of years ago, but it actually turns out it's still hanging around. It just took someone to actually find it.
Right. Exactly. There's a lot of wilderness.
Yeah, and that actually brings up, we'll segue into this cryptid. We've talked about this numerous times on the show, Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
This is the exact same thing where Bigfoot is seen in the forest, I think specifically the Pacific Northwest, where there's tons and tons of acres of wilderness. So to try to find one could be very difficult.
Absolutely. And especially if they have, this Bigfoot creature, if they have learned that humans can be a danger to their environment and everything, they could be well adept at staying hidden.
Yes. Well, okay, so I'm going to tell you what I think it is, and you tell me if you think this theory is correct, just bogus. I want to know what you think, because the other co-hosts on the show, they kind of, scoff at my idea, and I don't know if they actually believe what I'm saying, but
Right.
I'm going to tell you what I think. You let me know if you think I'm onto something or if it's just bogus.
All right.
Okay, so with Bigfoot, there's always UFO sightings pretty close or near to a lot of Bigfoot sightings, right?
Yeah.
So what I believe is that Bigfoot is either an interstellar being, or it's an alien pet of some sort, or like a alien scout, where aliens put this creature down wherever they want to have them look around or do whatever, and then when they need to bring them back, they just zap them up or open up a portal.
Yeah.
And the Bigfoot creature can come back, because there's two reasons why I have this theory. And the biggest one, there's no skeleton or there's no remains of a Bigfoot creature, not even like a bone or anything. There's footprints. People have plenty of footprints of a Bigfoot, but like there's no actual skeleton, hair fall. Like I think there's hair. People have gotten hair samples, and it's come back to like inconclusive as to what this creature may be or where this hair came from. But there's that. And then, have you ever heard of Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so there is a book, I think it's just called Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
And in that book, they talk about the owner, and there's a team called NIDS. I think it's the National Institute of Discovery Science. I think that's what NIDS stands for.
Okay.
But it's the owner of the farm or the ranch and this team. They're up on this ridge, and it's the middle of the night. They see what looks like the sun rising, but it doesn't make sense. The sun has already set like a couple hours ago, so time-wise, it doesn't line up.
Right.
And they see what looks like this sun rising or this doorway opening, and a creature comes out of it and then scurries off. You can only see this doorway or this thing open up from a certain angle, because I think one of them in the book, it says that they moved to try to get like a better look at it, and they couldn't see this doorway or this thing open anymore. And so they go back to where they were and they could still see it. But then again, it shut. So with those two pieces where there's no like physical evidence and this story about what happened at Skinwalker Ranch, I truly believe that the Bigfoot possibly could be an interstellar creature of some sort that can walk in through portals or something like that. And that's why we don't find them, or that's why we don't have anything about Bigfoot except for, some footprints and maybe some hair samples.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
The capabilities and possibilities when you include aliens and things like that into it. With aliens, they could have technology and scientific discoveries. It's unlimited possibilities, it seems like.
Yeah. So with that theory, do you feel like you would be on board with that? Do you see any errors, or could you poke any holes in this theory that I might have?
Not really. It'd be hard to disprove.
True.
Like I say, I mean, if we're considering aliens and stuff, we have no idea what they would be capable of. And having a type of pet or scout or anything like that would make sense. They could see more of Earth and kind of be hidden away more than an alien could.
So last week when I was doing some research, I came across Bigfoot tracking something.net. You're gonna have to listen to the last week's episode if listeners, I say it in there, I mention it. But long story short, there is a website that does like actual extensive research into like all these Bigfoot sightings, and the only thing that kind of like doesn't make too much sense, again, like if it is an interstellar creature, is that really a lot of the sightings are just in the United States. Granted, there are like a few in some other countries, but for the majority of them, they're just in the States, which if I was an alien creature and I had like a scout pet, I would probably be putting that creature everywhere. It just wouldn't be the United States. My theory on that is that part doesn't make sense, or like, why would alien creatures only want to put the Bigfoot creature here in the States as opposed to anywhere else in the world?
Okay. But then also, what if they were, as you say, like a pet scout type of creature from an alien being? What if they were just released into population, and then much like other animals around the world, they have one part of the world that they mostly live in and stuff? That would be an explanation for why they're not more widespread, in the same way that elephants aren't on every continent.
That is true. I guess like with my thought process is, for the Bigfoot creature, if they're really doing like gathering information and just scouting out or doing whatever, how long are they actually down on the ground before the alien
takes them,
pick them up or whatever? So it's like, is it something where they're there for years, or is it only like for a day or two and then get scooped back up? I'm not sure. But this kind of falls into like another cryptid, the Yeti, which is found more in like the Himalayas, the Asian countries, which again could be another alien scout of some sort, maybe not. What do you know as far as the Yeti?
I don't know a lot, but it does make sense to me. I think of the Yeti and the Bigfoot as being simpatico. They're of the same ilk. To me, the Yeti is kind of the Asian cousin.
Yeah. And that's just it too, is that maybe for whatever reason, I'm just going with the alien theory too, where it's like, okay, the Bigfoot is more adapted for the colder climates or like the ecosystem of the United States. Whereas if they had like a Yeti one, okay, well, that one is more adapted for the snow or colder temperatures, and that's why people see it in that area. That could be a possibility.
Right, absolutely. That makes sense.
Have you heard of the Dyatlov Pass story?
Yeah, I believe so. That was they found them in the snow, right? Isn't that the
Yes. Yeah, it's a Russian expedition team. I forgot exactly where they were going or what their objective was or why they were going out on an adventure. But one of the theories behind it is that they were attacked by a Yeti. And that's, again, why I bring up Dyatlov Pass. And again, I know we've covered this, so if you want a more in-depth discussion about it or know what's about, go ahead and take a look at our earlier episodes. But they do have like the pictures. They do have pictures of what happened, and it's pretty gruesome. And it's very odd. Some of the like how some of the bodies were found and everything like that. So again, one of the theories was that it was a Yeti attack, but I think that is kind of disproven. And I don't think there's too much weight to that actual story, but that's the only reason why I bring it up.
Yeah, that's a really weird one. I remember reading about that. It's been many years, but the explorers were found in the snow, and there was like missing body parts and like kind of the stripped off clothing hysteria of hypothermia basically type thing going on.
Yeah, it was really weird. I want to say either it was like the tongue or the eyes were removed from one of the bodies, but yeah, like the clothes were taken off. It didn't make sense. There was a big mystery behind it. Now, I think what might have happened is the Russian military, for whatever reason, killed these individuals somehow, or there was like a radiation. Because that was one of the things too, is that there was a large amounts of radiation on these individuals. So I think the theory is like something with the Russian government at the time, like did something to these people. So we do cover an episode on that. So you as the listener, if you want to like know more about that, go ahead and take a listen to that one.
Nice.
Another cryptid that we have covered in the past and is kind of interesting, and again, I will say that this is probably just a mistaken identity, is the Loch Ness Monster. What's your take on the Loch Ness Monster?
Oh gosh, as a kid, I was very interested in the Loch Ness Monster. I remember reading multiple books when my grandpa and grandma went to Scotland. I remember begging them to go to Loch Ness. I was like, you have to go see if you can find the Loch Ness Monster. That was probably my favorite cryptid as a kid.
Okay. Do you feel that the Loch Ness Monster is plausible? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's all fake? What are your thoughts on it?
I think there is a grain of possibility in there. I think it was the descriptions. A lot of the descriptions are very similar to like the, not the plesiosaur, but the elasmosaur, I think, which was kind of the bigger version. Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of factual things that corresponded to beings that we know actually existed. So, hey, it's a possibility.
What I kind of think may have happened, or why I think that the Loch Ness Monster is a possibility, is that if you look at actually a map of Lake Loch Ness, it does have a possibility to run into the ocean.
Right, yeah.
So that's why I feel like with this one, it is very possible. Again, I don't know if I'll throw all my chips in to say that this one actually does exist, but I feel like when we covered this episode, this is something that I remember finding very interesting, and that I was like, oh, okay, well, this very well could be that this cryptid actually does exist. You could follow, I think there is a river that Lake Loch Ness could technically come in and out of the ocean.
Right.
So maybe that's how it's coming in and out, and maybe that's why people don't see it so much now, and maybe there was that sighting, was like, okay, just it happened to be the water was high enough where it could travel in and out, and it just happened to be at Lake Loch Ness when it popped its head out and everything. With your research and everything that you know about the Loch Ness Monster, prior to that classic picture of Nessie, Do you know of any like stories or anything like that prior to say that there was a monster in Lake Loch Ness?
Yeah, there were, because I'm pretty sure the famous photo, I think it was called the surgeon's photo or something.
Yes,
And
yes, that's right.
One of the reasons the picture was taken was because the surgeon who took it was actively looking. He knew the story of this monster, so the story had been there and handed down to him before he even took the photo. So there was prior stuff. Absolutely.
Okay. I think that river that goes in and out of the ocean, you saying that there was prior stories of this and that's why it was there and everything like that. And like that's why I feel like, okay, it's a possibility. However, there was a couple of videos on Reddit in the cryptozoology that I love that subreddit, because people are actually like, having some like real discussions in there. It's not just dumb photos of AI images of cryptids or whatever, but there was a picture or a video of a northern pike, and it looked like a sea creature. The northern pike was just huge, and that's why I kind of bring up the whole mistaken identity. I feel like kind of happens quite often with, it's a cryptid, or look at what I see, like, or look what I saw, it's a monster, whatever. It's just like I feel like sometimes people are seeing like just normal animals, but they've never seen or heard them before. So therefore that's why they get classified as a cryptid, or like then they start become like these legends. So
right. And especially when you bring in a cryptid like the Loch Ness monster, who could possibly have escaped into or travel back and forth to the ocean. The ocean just adds such another layer. There's so much we don't know about the ocean, the contents and what's in there, and it really makes it hard to fully discount something that could possibly be out in the ocean.
True. Just some other numbers too I'm seeing right now online specifically about Lake Loch Ness is that apparently it has a depth of 226 meters. It's big enough to hold all the fresh water in lakes and rivers and reservoirs in England and in the Wales. The area of Loch Ness is 56 square kilometers. The circumference is 110 kilometers. And the murky waters mean that you're only able to see a couple of feet in front of you, which again, I feel like a lot of those numbers would hide, if there is Nessie, the monster, I feel like a lot of those numbers do hold true to where like, that's why people aren't seeing it very often.
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, that's another one of those cryptids that it's just, I don't know. It's hard to say if it's real or not. Because again, that river thing, I'll always hold on to. Maybe it has the ability to come in and out of the ocean, and maybe it was just there that one time and now it's gone.
Right.
When we talk about Nessie, that's just something that I always remember that kind of intrigued me.
Yeah.
There's another cryptid that I'm not too well versed in, and this one is just kind of off the wall, and I don't know if I can get on board with this one.
All right.
Batsquatch. Have you heard of a Batsquatch?
No, not at all, but that is right up my alley. That sounds very interesting.
All right, well, we might need to do a little bit of research on the Batsquatch, but apparently it's a creature resembling a bat and a Sasquatch, reported to be in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to see if I can find a little bit more research on this creature. So the Batsquatch is a flying cryptid that was allegedly seen near Mount St. Helens in the 1980s. It resembles a flying primate, similar to the ahole. I'm not sure what that is. And the orange batty of the southern East Asia. And its name is derived from the words bat and Sasquatch. Oh, okay. Yeah. Witnesses allegedly took several pictures of the creature. However, these pictures have not yet been analyzed and thus cannot prove the creature's existence.
Wow.
Interesting.
Very.
A little bit more about it. This creature was said to have had yellow eyes, a dog-like muzzle, blue fur, sharp teeth, bird-like feet, and leathery bat-like wings that span up to 50 feet. In addition, the Batsquatch is said to be 9 feet tall and have the ability to affect car engines.
Wow. Okay. Doing my show Caveman News, when we first started it, one thing we would do is we would look at YouTube videos that were mentioned Carlsbad, New Mexico, that had been uploaded in the past month or whatever. And doing that, we came across somebody who claimed that while they were driving, a large bat-like creature flew right next to his pickup and was like keeping speed with him while he was going like 60 miles an hour.
No way.
I think the guy has taken down the video since then because I can't find it anymore. But if I recall, I think he said there was some disturbance with his vehicle, with his truck, when the bat-like creature went by. So that sounds like Batsquatch to me. Yeah.
I'm reading a little bit more about it. All this information is coming from cryptids.fandom.com. So again, I don't know how reliable this site actually is, but this is where this information is coming from. It'd be interesting to actually see if there's any news articles or anything else about this. But let me read right here. It says that in April of 1994, Brian Canfield was driving in Washington, Pierce County when his truck suddenly died. Canfield said a large creature landed in front of him. He said it was a human-like, 9-foot tall, with bat-like wings, and also spotted a coat of blue fur. It also goes on to say that as Canfield's report became well known, a series of new reports followed. A person named Butch Whitaker reported that he was in a private plane in the vicinity of Canfield's encounter with a Batsquatch and encountered a flying Batsquatch.
Wow.
So this kind of reminds me of when the UFO sightings back in like the 40s and 50s really took off. I feel like it was one person reported it and then everyone else kind of like jumped on the bandwagon with like, I saw something too. Yeah, I saw something too.
Yeah.
And I want to say Betty Hill and Henry.
Oh yeah, I remember those names. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's the Hills, and they were essentially, long story short, I'm probably butchering the whole story right here, but they were driving somewhere and their car died. They saw a bright light and like a passing of time happened, and it was like the first, real legitimate UFO alien / whatever you want to call it encounter. And then like kind of like right after that, everyone else kind of saying that they had an encounter as well. And I think around this time too, you had the Roswell UFO crash. I feel like right around this time frame, everything kind of was starting to blow up. I feel like the Batsquatch articles are kind of like all the same, where it's like one person says that they saw it and then everyone else is like, oh yeah, I saw it too.
Which could be bandwagon stuff, but I mean, there's also the argument to be made that maybe hearing one person talking about it, maybe people say, oh, I'm not going to sound crazy if I say this thing that I have been wanting to share with people but haven't come out and said before.
That is true. I will give you that, where it's like you don't want to be the first person or the only person saying that you saw. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
A 9-foot tall Sasquatch that is also a bat. It sounds very ridiculous. So I could understand, like, if you legitimately think that you saw this thing and you don't want to be the only person, or you don't want to be like the crazy guy in town. I completely get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just reading a couple more of these articles or whatever it says in here. It says that in 1998, a driver of a truck hauling logs in northern Oregon reported a collision with a Batsquatch. The Batsquatch seen at the time was described as 15 feet tall with purple eyes, nose, and small wings.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that's 15 feet. Like, to me, that's really all right. How, like, can you imagine 15 feet?
That's difficult to imagine.
That's what I mean. Is like, that is like the size of like two grown adult men, one standing on the shoulders of another one.
Right.
That's how big this creature is.
Jeez.
And that's why it's like, all right, is that true? And then again, like, okay, this is 1998. Granted, I know that like cell phones, like no one had those, but I do feel like for the majority, I feel like people had the disposable cameras on them. Why was there not a picture snapped of this thing?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, maybe it's traveling fast. Maybe you don't have time to focus a camera, get a camera and get a lens on it.
I'm even looking on Google right now to see if there's actually any like legit photos or any disposable camera photos, and there's literally just drawings
Yeah.
and like cartoon stuff. There's like no like blurry photos or anything like that.
No, nothing even claiming that it is. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's just like I don't think there is anything, honestly. I don't think there's a legitimate picture of a Batsquatch.
Right. I don't think so either.
Okay, so Batsquatch, true, fake, what do you think? What are your thoughts on that one?
Probably fake, but I am hoping real. I am a proud man from Carlsbad, Mexico, home of the caverns. Bats are a big part of my local culture, so I would love for that to be real, but I don't think so.
I would love for this creature to be real as well. I'm gonna say probably, without a doubt, this one is probably not real.
Right.
Oh, there was another lesser known cryptid that I had covered right at the end last week. I think it's called the Goro. It's like Gowrow, something like that. But it's a creature in Arkansas, right?
Okay.
That some locals said that they hunted it, killed it, and then I think they buried it as well. But when people were like, all right, show us the bones, show us like any part of it, they couldn't reproduce or they couldn't give any like real physical evidence on this creature. And I almost feel like the Batsquatch is almost like someone is just making a story up in some sort of way. It just kind of went with it, and now it's a cryptid. So
Right.
I think we have time for really one more cryptid that we'll just kind of talk about for today. The Thunderbird.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a giant bird from Native American folklore said to be capable of creating thunder with its wings.
Right. Yeah.
For this one, I feel like it's one of those things where it's possible whoever or whatever came up with this story or people think that they saw it was actually a real bird.
Right.
But it was just one of these things where it's just a bird. This is one of those things where I covered last week where it's like, it's just a large snake. I feel like this is one of those things where it's like, it was just a large bird that someone saw, and maybe it got close to them and was flapping its wings, and like they felt the wind or whatever, and they're like, oh wow, that was really loud, and that, i.e. the thunder. So let me read a little bit more about it. So the thunderbird is a cryptozoological creature associated with large bird-like animals that lives anywhere from the northern Canada and Alaska down to Central America. Similar animals often appear in Native American mythology. Some tales tell of enormous eagles strong enough to carry whales back from their nest. Since pioneers began moving west across North America plains, sightings of the large birds have been reported. Similar stories appear in civilizations around the world. So with that information, what do you think?
That's one that it's a lot of the accounts that I've heard of the Thunderbird talk about it being centuries ago in early North America and things like that. So I wouldn't know about modern day, but possibly there was something like that centuries ago.
There was another episode that we had covered way back when was giants.
Nice.
And one of the areas that we had covered was actually giant birds.
Okay.
Or giant kind of creatures like that. And I do distinctly remember someone bringing up birds in general, and they had a video attached with it. And the bird was huge, and it was like running on the ground, and it was, I think, next to a human. And even if you like, just kind of like a little side note too, like if you've ever seen like an eagle open up its wingspan, it's huge. I think it's like close to 15 feet if I remember correctly. The numbers I'm not 100% sure, but it has a very large wingspan, right? The reason why I bring that up is because I'm reading a little bit more about this, and in 1977 apparently there was a thunderbird attack in Illinois. Do you want to hear about it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so in 1977, Illinois, a Thunderbird attack was reported. The attack by two unidentified birds on a young boy. The attack occurred July 25th, 1977. 10-year-old Marlowe was playing outside when he was suddenly attacked by two large birds, one of which temporarily picked him up and carried him over 30 feet before Marlowe's mother, Ruth, ran to her son's rescue, chasing the birds away and then recovering her traumatized son. Reportedly, several eyewitnesses had seen the attack take place. The birds were described to have a white ring around their necks, a 4.5 foot tall body with which wings approximately 4 feet long and 6 inches hooked bill, 3 front claws, 1 black claw, and a large black body.
Jeez.
Yeah. So with that information, with multiple witnesses and 2 birds, apparently not just one, do you think that story is legitimate? Do you think that's something that's fabricated? What are your thoughts on that one?
I don't think fabricated, but I'm not sure. I believe in modern day 70s for the Thunderbird, a large creature, to still be existing. I would probably count that one up to a misidentification, but that account that makes you wonder.
It really does. I feel like you're onto something there with like mistaken identity. I think what they're describing almost to me resembles like a vulture.
Yeah.
Of some sort. Because they're not saying that the bird was like 15 feet tall, like the Batsquatch or whatever. They were like,
right.
The numbers that they were giving like seemed like legitimate. Like, okay, this is a very large bird. Thunderbird?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a Thunderbird, but I think maybe kind of what happened here was that people knew of the Thunderbird and it could pick up whales and like it could pick up whatever it wanted. So they attached the name Thunderbird to these vultures that picked up this little boy and took him 30 feet.
That makes sense. Grasping for an explanation. Why not go to Thunderbird? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's also stories too of like, depending on where you live, if you have a small dog or like cats that live outside, you got to be careful because birds will come pick them up and take them away.
Yeah.
And also too, have you ever seen eagles tossing goats off the side of the mountain?
No, I have not. Wow.
Yes. So like eagles will go up to like mountain goats on the side of the mountain and pick them up by their horns and start to fly away with them and then just kind of yeet them. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. And eagle takes goat off mountain. Let me see here. Yeah, there's a YouTube video of it. I'm not gonna play it or anything like that, but I'm gonna hyperlink it and then I'm gonna drop it in. Can you see the weird things across the internet in our server?
Possible. I'm sure I can. Oh, I do. Okay, I see that. Perfect.
Okay. I just dropped a link.
Oh yeah.
Okay. If you click on that link, it should take you to the actual video of the eagle. This is the video that I saw years ago. And then you as the listener, again, I say this all the time. If you want any of these, anything that we're posting, anything like that, just go to That's Effing Weird at Podbean. You can join our Discord there, and then you can see all of these things. But if you don't want to do all that work, again, if you just go to YouTube, you type in eagle taking goat off mountain, you're going to find the video. Long story short, this is exactly what I'm talking about as far as like...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, did you just watch it?
Yeah, I'm watching it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is wild.
This is what I like, what you were saying, like mistaken identity or something like that. Like I never knew that eagles did this. Like I just saw this video randomly one time and I was like, holy cow, that is a huge goat. And that eagle is like just flying away with it and just eats it.
Jeez.
Yeah. But all right, that's a little bit of a cryptid talk for you, the listeners, and everything like that. I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed what we had to say about some of these, more well-known cryptids and everything. Conda, thank you so much for stopping by, and helping me out with this episode. Is there anything that you want to say last minute about cryptids, your show, anything like that to our listeners?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Have you guys ever talked about the chupacabra? That's a cryptid I love.
We have talked about the chupacabra, and we actually had someone come on and we tried to talk about it, but apparently I wasn't there for the episode. Apparently it wasn't one of our greatest episodes. We do have an episode on it. But now that you bring that up, we might have to just redo that episode completely and talk about, because I do know that that's a big one too, the chupacabra.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I look forward to maybe some chupacabra discussion someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to find out about weird stories from our neck of New Mexico, Carlsbad, New Mexico, not far from Roswell, we're on Twitch at Caveman News on there, and we're on Blue Sky, cavemannews.com on there, Instagram, caveman _news. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
cool.
It's been a blast. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for, talking about cryptids with us. And again, you as the listener, we're going to grab all the information from Conda and we're going to put it in the description. So if you want to, find anything, just go down to the description. We'll hyperlink everything. So you just have to click on it. And just remember that one thing that we always say here: we don't want stuff that's normal. We want stuff that's effing weird.